welcome back to the Northern Soul Sisters channel. You've just got me to start off with. Obviously, we're not all together today. There is only so much content we can do when we are together, and we only manage to meet up with each other once a month. So we have to try and cram as much as we possibly can into that time, as well as have our friendship time as well. But today we are back to talk about blouses. So we have done a previous video where we were all together and we were all talking about what our choices of fabric were and what our blouse pattern choice was as well. Now this was all for the challenge that is run by Gabrielle from Cloth Edit and co-hosted by myself, the Yorkshire Sew Girl, in the month of April. So you may have seen over on Instagram at the moment there has been an awful lot of people making blouses basically. Now, I'm not sure when this video is actually going to go out, whether it's all going to be finished by now or if we're going to manage to get this out before the end of April, but we shall see. But yeah, you may have seen there's an awful lot of people making an awful lot of blouses at the moment, and that's all to take part in the challenge. So if you don't know anything about that, please do refer back to our previous vlog or do go to Gabrielle from Cloth Edit's Instagram page where there's all the details on there that you can find. But yes, like I say, it's only for the month of April and that may be done by now. We're not sure when we're going to get this out. So today's plan is for each of us to kind of talk through the fabric that we showed you in our video previously and also the pattern made up. So I'm starting us off today and ta-da! Here is my blouse. So I was making the Maison Fauve Mia, which is actually a dress and a blouse. So you can make it an extended version as the dress or the shorter version for the blouse. These are the line drawings on the back here so that you can have a look. But here's the blouse version and here's the dress version. Now you've got a few different options on this blouse. You can have the shorter sleeve, which is the one that I've got, or you can have slightly longer with a cuff on it. You can have two different necklines, so you can have the stand-up collar, which is what I've gone with, or you can have this really nice scarf collar. And then you've got two options for the back as well. So you've got a low back, which is this one, and then a really low back, which is this one. And I've gone for this version. So I have gone for stand-up collar, the higher back of the two low backs, and the shorter sleeve version without the cuff and buttons on it. So it was very good for me because all I needed really was my fabric, a little bit of interfacing and my thread, and we were good to go. Now I've wanged my hair up, just quickly thrown it up so that you can see the back in a bit more detail as well, but we will be putting some photographs in so that you can see it in a little bit more detail with some static photos as well. So I talked about in the previous video that this goes from sizes 34 to 52, which in the UK is a 6 to 24. Now from a measurements point of view, for information, that's a bust of 31 to 47 inches, a waist of 23.5 to 40 inches, and hips of 34 to 50.5 inches. Now I'm quite on the upper scale, particularly on the waist measurements of this pattern. However, there is an awful lot of ease in the pattern, which is nice, so I didn't feel like there was any problem around my waist area. I should have been a size 48 on my bust, a 50 on my waist and a 48 on my hips, and because the waist doesn't really matter, I decided to just go for a straight size 48, and I'm actually really pleased with the sizing of this blouse. It fits me really nicely across the bust. I don't feel like it's too big and baggy, and I don't feel like it's restrictive at all. So yeah, I would definitely make this size again if I was to make it again. And I will be doing, I'll tell you about that in a moment. So it told me that I needed 1.6 meters of fabric. Now this is drafted for 1.65 meter in height and I'm 1.73 meter. So I did extend it. I actually extended it a bit more than it said because I wanted it to go kind of past my hip just. And in hindsight now I'm wondering whether maybe I might knock an inch off it next time. I'm not too sure. I'll maybe wear it a few times to decide whether I do that or not. I also added 1 inch to the sleeve. Now it is supposed to be kind of a cut-off sleeve here, so it's not a full-length sleeve, but it's lovely. It's not tight here around the cuff or anything like that, and it's got a really nice, loose, billowy sleeve. Now I personally, on my body shape, don't like puffy sleeves here. They just don't really do anything for my shape. I think probably because I'm quite broad shouldered. So then if I have big poofy sleeves as well, it makes me look like Michelin Man. You know what I'm saying? So these kind of sleeves are perfect for me where they drape really nicely into then a nice loose sleeve that's billowy, and then obviously it's gathered here into a little cuff. So yeah, very, very nice. So let's show you the blouse. I'll stand up so you can have a little look at it. So this is the blouse in all its glory. So yeah, really love the fit of it and how drapey it is. And then this is the back. Cheeky, cheeky, eh? So it's tied up here with a bow, and then this is the higher of the two lower options. And what I like about that, and the reason I chose that one, is because I can still wear a bra with it. And I know you ladies want to know about underwear and what you wear with it. So yeah, I've got a bra on now, and you can't see that anywhere. So the line where it actually hits is perfect, because it's about 1/2 inch above your bra strap. So it's all good in the underwear department, if you know what I mean. Now the fabric itself was so beautiful to work with. Obviously it's a viscose Moroccan, so it's got kind of like a crepe feel to it, which is really good because it doesn't crease very easily. But sometimes when you work with a fabric like that, you can worry a little bit about how it presses. I didn't need to worry about that. It pressed like a dream. You can probably see just from the collar alone that I had absolutely no issues with it whatsoever. It was wonderful. So instruction wise, you get this little booklet here if anybody's interested, because obviously it is a French pattern company as well. So as you go into the instructions, you will see that there is French on one side and English on the other. So you just work through that as you would do any other booklet, and it has all of your cutout plans, all of your measurements, etc., your fabric requirements and all that jazz. So nothing new. And I actually found the pictures very good. I really liked those. To hold your hand, you do have a YouTube video as well. It's in French, but it's quite easy to follow. And there's also a blog as well on the website. So if you just need a little bit of extra holdy handy, then you can go and do that as well. It says it's an intermediate pattern. I would agree with that. There is a facing on the back, so that the way that they create this really nice dip is through a nice facing. I'm not a huge fan of a facing. However, I do think trying to put binding on that dip, I'm not so sure it would look right. So I think a facing is the right way to do that. The only thing is when you put it on, even though I have actually done some little catch stitches into the seam up here, is it can flick out a little bit. So you do have to try and put your arms up and then try and just push them in round the back as well. I used a little Maison Fauve label as well, because I'd been gifted those from the lovely team last year, so I popped one of those in there. I thought that was very appropriate. And on the stand collar, you do a longer piece, and then that is what becomes the ties at the back. I think it's a really nice feminine look, if I'm honest. I really enjoyed making it. It was quite a quick, simple make, really. Obviously it says it's intermediate, and I think, yes, there's a few things in there, like gathering into the sleeve, into the cuff, sorry, you know, getting this top stitching really nice. But other than that, I'm not so sure it would be too much of a challenge for a beginner. Now, the instructions do have an error in it. I have been in touch with Maison Fauve and they've thanked me very much and said they're going to look into it. There is a section that I was scratching my head on quite considerably, and that is to do with popping this part on, so the neckline. And basically what's happened is 2 of the pages have been printed the wrong way around. So this page should be here and this page should be there. So I scratched my head for quite a long time, because I was kind of like, I don't understand what I'm doing here. This is talking about the next step before I've got to it. I wrote a load of stuff in my book to say what's going on, and then I realised when I turned the page what it was. So I worked it all out myself anyway. There was another very small error just on here, just saying that it was the dress cut out plan rather than the blouse. And the only other thing that I found didn't quite work was the interfacing piece for the collar. It said should reach the notches on the pattern piece, but actually it didn't. It was about 3.5 inches short actually when I measured it, and I measured the pattern pieces to make sure I'd not stretched anything out. So just a couple of little niggles there. But yeah, I've been in touch with the Maison Fauve team and we've had a bit of a chat about it, and I've said, look, if you want me to cast my eyes over any in future, just let me know, because I have the eagle eye. So yeah, but other than that, I think the instructions were very good actually. Obviously they're I'm assuming translated into English, or they're written by someone who is English and it's their first language. But yeah, I had no issue with it whatsoever. So I didn't interface the cuffs. I didn't see anywhere where it said to actually interface the cuffs if you were doing this version. You probably need to put interfacing in if you're doing the actual version that's split with a button, but I didn't need to do that at all. So the only thing that I would probably do different next time is on the back, on the facing, it doesn't tell you to finish your edges. And I think I would next time, because obviously facing can flap up and down, and when it's in the washer I don't want the internal edges to start fraying. So when I make this again, I think that's the only other thing that I would do. The other thing I mentioned in the original vlog was that this pattern was cut on the bias. Now when I actually opened it all up, it's not cut on the bias at all. It says that in the description, and that's just because the pattern pieces are of such a swing-like, if you can see here, they really go out. So by the time you cut this, the bottom of it is actually on the bias. Does that make sense? But you're not cutting anything on the bias. It's all grain line, you know, opposite the selvage edge, etc. So there's nothing to worry about there. But I am very, very, very happy with my make. I'm suited. And I'm definitely going to make another one. And I'm going to make it in this fabric. So I've got a remnant of this fabric that I've had for some time. I've made a sort of a slip out of this, and I just think this a really nice, beautiful, bright coloured one, because obviously I love pink and red and I think very special in it. And then I'm going to go to the old traditional Bet Lynch type animal print. So that's my review. Absolutely loved it. Would definitely be making it again. And let's head on over now to see the girls and what they've got up to. Bye.
And here is my finished blouse. So obviously you'll have seen our planning video and you'll know that this is the Fibremood Ulima top or blouse. So this is a lovely cropped blouse with cropped sleeves, and it's got a really lovely relaxed vibe. And the fabric, if you remember, I went for is this beautiful cotton lawn. It's an Artlux exclusive cotton lawn, and it's called Hawaii, and this is the blue colourway. Now I know that Gabrielle has recently got this back in stock, so we'll link to it down below and you might be able to pick some up yourself, because it is a really stunning fabric. Just look at that print. It's amazing. And what's great is I've got quite a bit of this left, and once I show you my blouse, I'll talk to you about what I'm going to do with the leftover fabric. So the making of the blouse. If you followed along on our journey, you'll know that I hadn't made a Fibremood pattern before this project and the Ribbon It project that we recently did. I hadn't made a Fibremood pattern, so these were my first experiences. I didn't know what to expect of the sizing, and I therefore decided just to go with my body measurements. So I went with a medium, which is where my body measurements put me in Fibremood sizes. Now, when we revealed the Ribbon It makes, I shared that mine was a bit too oversized and I would have preferred to go down to a small, and it is the same for this as well. I think I can get away with it because of the relaxed style of it, but I definitely think that a Fibremood size small is going to be the best for me moving forward. In terms of making this, sewing it up, it was a dream. Really easy to put together. The instructions were brilliant. No confusing elements at all. The only thing that I changed on this, so I made it as per the pattern, other than it's supposed to have a facing that is all the way around to finish all of this neckline edge. I'm not a massive fan of facings. I don't think they always sit right. They had a bit of bulk, you know. I'm just not a big fan. And I am a big fan of bias binding, especially bias binding made by the Specky Seamstress. And I made it a sort of goal of mine this year to incorporate more of my bias binding into my makes, because I was building up quite a stash of bias binding and not using it. So I decided to switch the facing out for bias binding, which was just really simple to do. And the bias that I used is this really beautiful floral design, which is a Specky Seamstress design. It was the one that I thought matched best with the fabric. Not that anyone can see it other than me, but that was really simple. And obviously it means I do have a stitching line, but because I've used a really good colour match for my thread, it's not noticeable. So I'll stand up and share it with you. Like I said, I think it's a size too big, but I can get away with it. I just tucked under the waistband And I think I might prefer that look. So let's stand up and share the blouse with you. So this is it with the waistband tucked up. You can see obviously there is a lot of room in it, and with it being a cotton lawn, it doesn't sort of fall in the way that a viscose would. Same with the sleeves. I love it. I really actually love this, but I definitely think I need a size small. But let's have a look with the waistband out. So this is how it's supposed to look. You have this wide elastic waistband that just brings it in. Now I like that, but then obviously you've got all of this fabric hanging over the top. So I actually think that that looks quite cute. What do you think? Let me know in the comments which look you prefer. The buttons that I've used are from Jazz and Wow. You're not massively going to be able to see them, but they're just these gorgeous clear and blue resin buttons. So I've just got 3 of those. I've just hemmed the sleeve as per the instructions. And I do really like it. I am really happy with it. So as I mentioned earlier, I do have quite a bit of this fabric left. I started out with 2 meters and I think I used just over 1 meter to make this. The pattern pieces are quite wide because of this big sleeve, but I've definitely got at least 90 centimeters left. So I'm going to make a little pair of shorts to go with this, and I'm going to use the Foxy Boxies pattern by Gracie Steele, which I've made a few times. It's a big favourite of mine, and I just think for the summer, if we ever get one in the UK, this with a little pair of matching shorts will look really cute. But I think it does look great with jeans as well. I probably will wear it with black jeans, but I've just got some dark blue jeans on today and I think it really goes. So what do you think? Obviously the 3 of us have made very different blouses, all different fabrics, more suited to our individual tastes. I do love what I've finished up with. It's, yeah, I love it. I love the print, I love the style, and when I make it next time, which I definitely will, I'm going to try it in a more drapey fabric, so something like a viscose, and I'm also going to make a size small and just see what difference that makes, because like I said, I do just have some excess fabric, but because of the relaxed style of it, we can get away with it. What do you think? So let's head over to Rachel now and see her gorgeous blouse.
Now it's my turn to talk to you about my blouse, and if you remember from our introduction vlog to this challenge, I was going to make the Phen by pattern Fantastique. Now, after I had already said I was going to make this and we'd filmed that, I was looking again at this thinking, does this actually fit the brief? Because it is called a shirt. However, there are 3 options to this pattern, and 2 of them I do think fit the blouse brief because they've not got the traditional collar. They've got like a tie detail around the collar and the cuff. So I thought, you know, I can just about get away with it. However, I, yes, wanted to make this pattern for a long time. When it was released, I thought it was really unusual, really unique, and yes, it's always been on my radar. So when the opportunity came up to sew it up for this challenge, I thought I'm going to embrace it and do it now for Sew April Blouse 24. So you might remember, got this gorgeous Artlux cotton lawn from Gabrielle at Cloth Edit, and I just thought this would make the perfect Phen. So let me tell you a little bit more about the pattern. It comes in sizes 6 to 26, which equate to a bust measurement of 31 7/8 to 51 9/56. I don't know why they just don't do straight sizes, but hey ho, that's what the pattern instructions say. I went with a size 12 and I made no adjustments to this pattern because I wanted to just sew it up as is. It has some really unusual features and I thought I didn't want to sort of mess around with the proportions, etc. So I did have an image in mind of how I wanted to style this and how I wanted to wear this garment once I'd made it. So we'll come to that in a little while, but that is why I didn't make any adjustments. I just went with the straight size 12. So I just went by my bust measurement, which at the time I made it was a 37.5-inch full bust, and the size 12 is based on 37 3/4. So I fit within that, and yeah, made this up as is. So with this pattern, you get three collar options. So you've got this lovely sort of tie detail, you've got a normal sort of collar stand option, and then you've got a collared version as well, which is the version I went for. And then you have two cuff options. So you have an option of just a normal little cuff with a placket, and you also have the little tie version as well. I didn't want to make the tie version this time. I wanted to go with the collar and collar stand and little cuff and placket. So that's the version I went for. Now, my first problem, I will say, with the instructions for this pattern was that it didn't actually tell you which version was which. So when it refers to the particular version you're making throughout the instructions, it's a little bit awkward to actually figure out which version it's referring to when it's detailing the instructions. And I found that a little bit confusing because each version wasn't separate. So you know how, for instance, in some patterns you'll get view A is this, view B is this, and view C is this. It doesn't, in the instructions it will tell you for view A do XYZ, but it doesn't actually tell you at the beginning which view A is. So you have to sort of figure that out. And that can get a little bit confusing. I did find that the diagrams were really clear. What I love about these instructions were that it was very easy to distinguish between the right side and the wrong side throughout of the pictorial instructions. And because they don't use photos, they just use line drawings, I find that much clearer to follow, and it was easy, and that made it easier to figure out which particular version it was referring to some degree. There's lots of stay stitching involved with this. Once you've cut out all the pattern pieces, it tells you to stay stitch practically everything. There's lots of curvy pattern pieces to this pattern. The sleeves are in a 2-piece sleeve, and the bodice is very curved. The sleeves are very curved. So I understand why it tells you to stay stitch everything, because especially if you're using a fabric that's quite drapey, which you can do for this pattern, then it's very easy to get them stretched out. So because I was using a cotton lawn and I'm quite experienced now at sewing, I decided to omit that step because yeah, I just didn't feel that I needed to do it. And it's not hindered me at all, but I would say if you are using a drapey fabric, I would definitely go ahead and follow the instructions for that part and make sure you stay stitch where it tells you to do that. Now, a couple of other issues I had with the instructions were that for the collar piece C, so for this bit, for the collar, it actually tells you to only cut one. On the actual collar piece itself, it says cut one, which I did initially, but I did think, surely I'm going to need two. But then I thought, well, maybe it's just, I don't know, folded back on itself or something. But no, it wasn't. I did need two. So that was an error in the instructions that was a bit disappointing because this pattern is expensive. It was about £17 for this pattern. And I also couldn't find any instructions at all to tell you how to construct the collar and collar stand. I couldn't see them. Now, there are a lot of instructions in this pattern. There's pages and pages and pages of it. That made it more difficult for me to find. But so I might have missed it, but I could not find anywhere throughout the instructions how to actually construct the collar and collar stand. I could find it for the tie version and for the simple collar stand version, but not for the one with the collar. Now, fortunately, I have made shirts before and I sort of, you know, knew how they went together, so I could put that together. But if this is your first time putting a collar and collar stand together, I would avoid this pattern, I'll be honest, because I couldn't find it. It wasn't easy to find where that was. So I don't know if it was missing or whether I just missed it. But moving on to the good points for this pattern, the instruction to create the yoke on the back, because it's got a yoke along the back which comes quite low to here, and there is like a central pleat. The instructions for to burrito that were really, really good, very clear. And because the sleeve is a two-part sleeve, as I explained, it meant the placket construction was very, very simple and straightforward. And the sleeve is so well drafted. As I mentioned, it's curved, and fitting that into the rest of the garment went in absolutely perfectly. It was spot on. So the drafting on this sleeve and the insertion to the rest of the garment was brilliant. It really was very, very good. All in all, it was a little bit hit and miss, I would say, with the instructions for this pattern. This is the first Pattern Fantastique pattern I've ever made, and I would say, based on this, it's not for beginners. They're not a beginner pattern company, so you need to have a few garments under your belt, I would say, before you attempted something like this. So let's move on to my finished make. Now, I love the fabric. It's got like a little pocket on the front here, and I loved how the pocket goes together. It tells you to interface the top of the pocket, which is something I've never done before, and I really like that because it gives you a little bit of structure and means that when the pocket is attached, it's not going to sort of bag out, which I thought was really ingenious, and it's probably a little technique that I will use moving forward as well. You will see by the images that I will insert that I'm a bit on the fence on this particular design on me. I think the sleeves are far too short. I mean, you know, I do have long arms anyway, but this is a good 2 to 3 inches too short for me. So what I'm going to have to do is wear the sleeves rolled up, I think, which is fine because with the rest of the design of this pattern, I don't like it buttoned up. I'm going to insert some images anyway of how it's designed to be worn as opposed to how I will probably wear it. But because it's very sort of relaxed fit on the upper blouse and very oversized, but then it comes in very narrow to your high hip, and my hips are my widest part, so I feel that proportionally it highlights an area of my body that I don't particularly feel comfortable with. So because of that, I don't think it suits my shape. And when I look at the design images, I absolutely love it. I think it's beautiful. But on me, I'm not convinced in how it's designed to be worn. So let me stand up and show you. So you can see that it's like, it comes down in like a dolman style, although it's not a dolman because you do have an inset sleeve. But then it's really narrow at the high hip here. And I just think I don't know, I just don't particularly like how it hangs. It just feels a bit, I don't know. But I think how I'm going to wear it is sleeves rolled up, unbuttoned, tied over a vest, and I think it will be a really nice like little overshirt that I can wear loosely, you know, when you want something a little bit more covered up because it's a little bit cool on summer days, that kind of thing. I think I'll wear it like that and it will be great. But as for wearing it as a shirt as it's designed, as I say, the sleeves are too short and I don't like how it looks on me as a finished shirt. So will I make it again? Probably not. Am I glad I've made it? Yes, because it's scratched an itch that I've wanted to scratch for a long time, and it's not put me off making any more of their patterns, absolutely, because as I say, I am quite an experienced sewer and sometimes it's good to stretch yourself and try new things. So I'm really pleased that I've tried it. The fabric is beautiful. It feels so gorgeous on my skin, and as I say, I love the design on it. It's just beautiful. So yeah, it's been a really good experience. I've loved taking part in Sew Blouse 24 again, along with my gorgeous Ruan and Tamlyn as well. I'm sure you'll agree that their blouses are beautiful. It's been great to support this challenge again this year. So that's it from the three of us this time. Let us know what you think to our finished blouses in the comments down below. Did you take part in Sew Blouse this year? Let us know. We'd be really keen to see what you made. And we'll be back with you really soon. Take care. Bye.